Chair lays out Senate Bill 2320 and recognizes Senator King to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. I became a police officer in 1977, and nothing has improved with regard to DWI injuries and fatalities since then. And I first came to the legislature in 1999. We had in Brock, Texas, which is just down the street from my house, we had 4 Brock High School girls killed in one DWI collision, and nothing has really changed in DWI fatalities since then. And today you're going to hear testimony from Lauren Muckleroy, a mom from Fort Worth whose husband and 2 young children were killed by a drunk driver on their way to see family for the Thanksgiving holiday in 2023. This bill is about protecting your children and grandchildren and loved ones. Frankly, I'm just kind of fed up at this point. Texas Department of Public Safety reports that over 13,000 driving while intoxicated crashes occurred just from 2022 to 2024, resulting in almost 1,287 fatalities. That means that 1 out of every 4 traffic fatalities investigated by the DPS during this time was the result of someone driving while intoxicated. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration shows that over the 10 years from 2013 through 2022, there were approximately 110,000 fatalities in the United States involving an intoxicated driver. That is double the number of American soldiers who lost their lives during the Vietnam War. Let me say that again. We lost 58,220 soldiers in Vietnam, and just during the 10-year period, 13 to 22, twice that many were killed by intoxicated drivers. The consequences of driving while intoxicated endanger the lives of every person on the road, and too many Texans continue to become victims of this danger. SB 2320 takes steps to address this serious issue by just trying to increase the penalties for driving while intoxicated. The way the bill would work out, if passed, is first-time driving while intoxicated offense, currently a Class B misdemeanor, would be bumped up to a Class A. Driving while intoxicated with an open container, which is currently a Class B, would be bumped up to a Class A. Driving while intoxicated with sobriety of analysis of 0.15 or more, which is currently a Class A, would be bumped up to a state jail felony. And driving while intoxicated with any prior DWIs, including in a boat or an aircraft or while operating an amusement park operation, would be bumped up to a state jail felony. It's really simple, but it's just trying, if nothing else, then let's make the penalties higher and see if we can't get people's attention. Someone testified earlier that today there's no reason, with Uber and Lyft and the decades of public service announcements and all the advertisements and everything else we've done to try to curb DWI, and it still continues to take deaths every day in Texas. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Senator King? With no questions for Senator King at this time, the chair now opens for invited testimony, and then chair calls Bill Rayburn and Lauren Muckleroy. Welcome. We start to my right. Okay. Ms. Muckleroy.
Good morning, Chairman, Committee, Senator King. Thank you for having me. My name is Lauren Muckleroy, and I'm here to testify in support of Senate Bill 2320. As Senator King mentioned, on November 22nd of 2023, my husband, Zach, my 12-year-old son, Judson, my 9-year-old daughter, Lindsay, and myself were driving from Fort Worth to Johnson City to spend Thanksgiving with my side of the family. Unfortunately, we never made it there because another vehicle, driven by a drunk driver, came across 281 and hit us head-on. I was seriously injured and care flighted to Del Seaton here in Austin, But as Senator King mentioned, Zach, Judson, and Lindsay did not survive. Even as I speak those words out loud, it still doesn't seem real or possible, almost 18 months later. I don't remember much from that day, but I will never forget a state trooper telling me all 3 of them were gone. Because the other driver passed away, we didn't find out he was intoxicated until 3 months after our accident. Not only was he intoxicated, but he was found to have a blood alcohol content of 0.261, a little over 3 times the legal limit. In addition, the assumption based on the investigation is that he was drinking in his car while driving from his Marine base in Corpus Christi. This assumption was made based on the lack of stops that he made along the way and timelines determined from police interviews that were conducted. My entire family was gone in a senseless instant. But they weren't gone because of a freak accident or because we were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I lost my entire family because of an irresponsible and selfish choice. This did not have to happen. My husband, Zach, was gregarious and kind, would do anything for anyone. His nickname in Fort Worth was Mayor Muck, not because he was ever officially elected, but because he made everyone who crossed paths with him feel important and special. Judson was silly, but also empathetic beyond his years. He loved video games, pickleball, football, and just being with his 6th grade friends. Lindsay was full of life. She was a Spitfire, and she would do anything to defend those she cared about most. She should be celebrating her 11th birthday tomorrow. But she doesn't get the chance to turn 11 or 16 or 21. She will never go to a prom. She will never get to go to UT, which was her dream starting in 3rd grade. This was all taken from her. Everything was taken from all 3 of them. They all had so much life left to live. This didn't have to happen. But this is what can happen when someone chooses to drink and drive. My hope and prayer is that lives can be saved as a result of our story, that others can have the chance to live their lives to their fullest as a result of what happened to us. If we can deter just one driver from getting behind the wheel and therefore saving just one life due to harsher DWI penalties, it will be worth it. Thank you for your time and consideration in supporting this bill.
Thank you for being here. I'm very, very sorry for your loss on behalf of us all, and took great strength
Thank you.
to tell your story, but hope you will make a difference.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Mr. Chair, good morning.
Senator King.
Before we go to the sheriff, could I?
Please.
Thank you. First, thanks for coming down for this. I know how hard it is, and it stirs up things that really never go away.
Right.
And you know, the story of what happened was really widely broadcast in the media, and I think everybody's heart fell, because that's everybody's greatest fear, is that you wake up from an accident and your family's gone. And there's not anybody in this room who hasn't thought about that occurring. And I just want you to know we love you, and we will fight for you and fight for this cause. And I just so appreciate you coming down and testifying. I know it's a hard story to tell, but thank you.
Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Sheriff.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Senators. Thank you all for having me here. Madam, your courage is incredible. Thank you. Is DWI has, as I think Senator Phil laid out very well, that we have issues with DWI in Texas. In the last 2 years, law enforcement has arrested 170,000 people for DWI in Texas. It's about 235 people a day with loose missiles out there on our highways and byways. And I think from the previous bills that I have seen today, that this Senate is prepared to send a strong message that we're done with DWI. In Tarrant County, where I'm from, last year we filed 5,100 plus cases of DWI, but still yet we had 18 fatalities and over 30 crashes that had significant injuries just in our county. And that is duplicated all over the state. And to get the attention of the people of Texas and those that are coming in to visit, recognizing that we're a high tourist state, that we send a message: we're not tolerating this. We're not going to stand for this for not one more minute, and we can possibly see a reduction in DWI. I think law enforcement's doing as good a job as they can. We'd like to spur them to a little bit higher on trying to capture the DWI, but once we catch them, we want them to know that the consequences is significant. And what I've seen from this this committee so far today, they have agreed with that. And I would ask you to pass this bill, and let's stand shoulder to shoulder and say, well, we're not going to tolerate drinking and driving.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any members? Thank you all for being here. Again, our deepest condolences. So with that, there is no more invited testimony, so invited testimony is now closed.
The chair lays out Senate Bill 230 and recognizes Chairman Garrett to explain the bill. 230.
Okay. 2320, I believe. sir.
2320. Oh, I see. Okay, a little typo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
Members, Senate Bill 2320 amends the penal code to enhance the penalties for all DWI offenses, including first-time offenders, offenses with open container present in the vehicle, offenses in which the driver's alcohol concentration level was 0.15 or more, and repeat offenses. And the reason I'm carrying this bill, on November 22nd of 23, Lauren McElroy, her husband Zach, and their 12-year-old son Judson and 9-year-old daughter Lindsay were driving from Fort Worth to Johnson City to celebrate Thanksgiving. They never arrived. A vehicle driven by a drunk driver crossed Highway 281, collided head-on with Lauren and her family. Lauren was seriously injured and airlifted to Seton in Austin. Unfortunately, Zach, Judson, and Lindsay did not survive. 3 months later, Lauren learned the driver of the other vehicle had a blood alcohol content of 0.261, more than 3 times the legal limit. The consequences of driving while intoxicated endanger the lives of every person on the road, and too many Texans have become victims. This bill is about protecting our children, grandchildren, and loved ones, and it substantially increases the penalties. And if you have any question about that, they're in the bill, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Questions, Mr. Chairman? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, the chair will move on to witness testimony. The chair calls Mark Thiessen, representing self. Okay. You're registered as Mark Thiessen, representing yourself.
Yes,
and you're
sir.
on for or against the bill?
I'm against the bill.
Against the bill. Thank you. Go ahead.
So why you can trust me this morning is because this is against my best financial interest. I am one of 5 DWI specialist defense attorneys in the state of Texas. This is bad for my business, but I'm here to tell you the truth about this. People say, Mark, how can you represent DWI clients? Because you don't have to be a bad person to get a DWI. I've represented, we all know friends that have DWIs. I've represented police, doctors, lawyers, politicians, judges. In fact, our beloved ex-governor, George Bush, has a DUI. And he talks about it, how intoxicated he was. He was probably over a .15 when he drank too much with John Newcomb. That would make him a felony back in the day. This bill doesn't take into account how hospital blood is always falsely elevated. It doesn't take into account the rising problem of people driving on drugs and medication. .15 won't deal with that. I'm only here to talk about the .15. And Texas has been an at the time of driving state. When you get these numbers, it isn't at the time of driving. So we're going to change all kinds of law. I completely agree that felonies should be for intox manslaughter, intox assaults. When you have multiple DWIs, we're not here about that. But to make it a felony over a .15 is going to ruin a lot of lives. We know people like that. We have our friends. We have politicians that had it. So I believe that this bill will ruin, strictly only because of the .15 making it a felony, will ruin more lives than deter it, because honestly, being in the trenches, what's going to happen when they make that a felony, they're just going to plead it down to a misdemeanor. They're just going to, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to deter DWIs. Keep felonies for everything else, but please do not make .15 on a DWI first a felony. Thank you very much.
Is there any questions for this witness?
Yes, sir.
Representative Little.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't know how much you see this in your practice, but it seems to me, or one of the things that I observe about other people is that it's not so much the level of intoxication from alcohol, but that people are mixing that with benzos and other drugs. And I mean, they don't need to be 0.15 to be way more intoxicated than somebody is 0.08 mixed with other prescription medication. Do you see that in your practice?
I think it's rising right now. We're getting a lot more medication and weed and all the different drugs. But here's the problem with all the so a 0.15 won't catch any of those drugs, right?
That's what I'm saying.
But the problem is that on the 0.1, well, I am seeing all of that, and it's not going to catch it. So maybe more people are going to be like, well, I'm just going to keep taking my medication. And the problem is there is no magic number for these pills. Just because you took a Xanax yesterday to relax after work, you're still testing positive the next day, even though it's not psychoactive. And so just because it's in your blood for the next 3 days and it's going to show with that alcohol content, it's not necessarily psychoactive. Just because you took a hydrocodone this weekend for knee pain, you're still testing positive today, you know, as it gets out of your system, but it's not necessarily psychoactive with the alcohol.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
The chair calls Douglas Huff, representing self. You're registered as Douglas Huff,
Yes,
representing yourself? And
Yes,
you're-
I am.
And you're on for or against the bill?
I'm against the bill.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Douglas Huff. I'm a defense attorney as well, based out of Dallas, Texas. I strongly oppose the Bill 2320 because it escalates punishment for first-time DWI offenders without improving public safety, and it strains our already overloaded courts and jail systems and removes flexibility for the justice that justice demands. First, the bill will elevate first-time DWIs from a Class B to a Class A misdemeanor, and in some cases to a state jail felony. That's a massive leap in punishment for people who, in many cases, made a mistake but were not involved in an accident, didn't harm anyone, and often had no previous criminal history. Second, the bill would make it a state jail felony if a person's blood alcohol content is over 0.05 or more, and even on a first offense. That means someone who has 2 or 3 drinks too many can now be branded a felon for life. This isn't targeting repeat offenders or people who cause harm. This does not target intox manslaughters or intox assaults. It's punishing statistical risk with lifelong consequences. Third, the bill elevates a second DWI to a state jail felony regardless of how long the first one occurred. I've represented clients with DWIs in their early 20s, and then 20, 30 years later, they are charged with a DWI, and this law would force a felony on someone who's lived clean for decades. To be clear, we support laws against dangerous repeat DWI conduct, but felony convictions destroy careers, it limits housing, it devastates families and career opportunities. I urge you not to turn thousands of working Texans into felons, and I'm asking for you to reject 2320. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Sure.
Mr. Little?
How much of the DWI docket does this shift from county court at law to district court?
I think it would shift a massive amount from county court to district court, because now, as soon as we move anything to state jail felony,
It automatically goes to district court,
it's
right?
going to district court.
And so what is the volume that we're talking about? Do you,
I
as
can't
a
speak-
practitioner, feel like you have a sense of that?
I mean, I can give you a sense of it. I mean, just thinking about the 0.15 or greater or second-time DWI that would now be considered, now that we're going into a state jail felony, I would imagine just from the docket that I normally work, that's going to change half of my caseload from misdemeanor to felony. That's moving things from county court to district courts. That's going to put an incredible burden on our judicial system.
It would be massive.
It would be massive.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other additional questions?
Chair would like to recognize Representative Bowers in attendance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chair calls David Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, you show registered as David Gonzalez, Texas Criminal Defense Lawyers Association, and self?
Yes, sir.
That's correct. And are you testifying on for or against the bill?
I'm testifying against the bill.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
The Texas Criminal Defense Lawyers Association typically doesn't weigh in on enhancement provisions. That's your job. But here's why we're chiming in on this one, for two reasons. First, is this is the first time that the proof changes the offense. So if I have a lot of proof over a .08, then at that point it makes it a more serious offense, unlike theft or burglary or robbery. So in other words, if I confess or if I cooperate, at that point I now have a greater penalty than if I refuse to give a breath or a blood test, and you can't be able to get that against me. And so what that changes are the incentives for people to cooperate with the police. And so, for example, in Travis County, a lot of our programs for diversion have been, if you're not rude to the officer, if you consent to breath or blood, you agree to have interlock in your car, you can have one path. Instead, this now changes that to how we used to be 10 years ago, where lawyers are saying, look, there is no incentive to cooperate or give breath or blood. You're only giving an incentive to take a misdemeanor into a felony. So that changes the first thing. The second is, for many of us who see these cases, I say typically for representing women who have no concept that 2 glasses of wine can very quickly get you into much higher BACs than you thought. And so it's the behavior that we look to disincentivize, not the actual amount that metabolizes in your bloodstream. As for many of my clients who have felt when they started driving that they were okay, and then they pulled over because something wasn't seeming correct, and they're in the side of the road and they're not driving, they're still arrested because the officer's like, well, you used to be driving. I would like to incentivize the people that feel like they're too intoxicated to pull over, but now the very folks that feel that and pull over that have a high BAC are the ones that now are subjected to felony punishment as compared to what's happening right now, which is misdemeanors or diversion. It dramatically changes, I think, both county court versus district court, and just a lot of incentives of what now we lawyers are going to advise people on whether you should give a breath or a blood test.
Members, questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chair calls C.J. Grisham. You registered as C.J. Grisham, and you're here representing yourself?
That's correct. Yes,
Thank
Mr.
you. And you're on for or against the bill?
I'm against the bill, Sheriff.
Against the bill, thank you.
Oh, it should be against. I am against.
Do we have your permission to change it?
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
Go
ahead.
Thank you. So I'm mostly a civil rights attorney, but I'm also a criminal defense attorney, generally as it relates to civil rights issues. I don't do DUIs and DWIs, and the reason I don't is because I don't want people out there threatening my life, threatening my kid's life, out there drinking and driving. But I make exceptions, first-time offenses. If it's a first-time offense and you come to me and say, CJ, help me, I screwed up, I made a mistake. Whether it's .02 or .19, it doesn't matter to me. If you make a mistake, this happens to people. And there's various reasons for that, a death in the family, the loss of a job, you know, and that doesn't excuse it. But when I have a client that comes to me and says, I screwed up, I want to take responsibility for my actions, I just need an attorney to help me so it doesn't ruin my life, this will ruin people's lives. And that one mistake is now a lifetime mistake. Now, I agree with one of the previous attorneys that spoke about intoxicated manslaughter and, you know, when someone's hurt or killed because of this drinking and driving, I'm for the death penalty in those cases. But when it's just the fact that you have a blood alcohol content in your system, and especially if it's a first offense, I think this affects their right to keep and bear arms. It affects their right to get loans. It affects their right to get jobs, or their ability to get jobs. It affects their ability to go to school. And for that reason, I oppose the bill. Although I understand we've got to do something about drinking and driving, but I don't think making it a felony is the way to do it. So I respectfully, on my own behalf, oppose the bill.
Thank you. Members, questions? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Chair calls Timothy Mabry. Timothy Mabry, registered as self for the bill. We'll show him not in attendance and not testifying. That's it. Is anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against Senate Bill 2320? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Guerin to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I'm really happy to hear from these defense lawyers today. I wish they'd come by earlier and we could have talked about this. I don't disagree with them. We possibly can make some changes in this bill for first-time offenders that don't hurt or kill somebody. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, and if not, I'll close.
Sure.
Representative Moody has a question.
Chairman Garrett, it's not a question, but I'm wondering if we could get data from Office of Court Administration. I see the fiscal note in there. They're extrapolating out over there, but they should be able to tell us in the previous few calendar years which ones were filed as I just don't know if they can disaggregate the data between because these would be A's today, but also A's are second offenses. So I don't know if they can disaggregate A second offense versus A high BAC. But if they can, or if they're listening with, maybe they're just watching us all the time, I would love to have that information just to know, just to have the case number. So if that's something that we can work on getting, that would be helpful.
Mr. Moody, I'll be happy to try to do that, and I hope they're not watching us all the time. They need something better to do.
You'd be amazed sometimes. They're like, I heard you ask this question. I'm like, well, what else? All right. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Bowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Guerin. I think we've been having this discussion for a minute now about drunk drivers. So I'm really grateful that you brought this legislation and have picked this up. I'm wondering about the projected impact on incarceration, though. Do you have any information or data on if it?
Ma'am, I don't, but I'll try to get that for you.
Okay, just thinking about TDCJ bed increase and if there will be projected overcrowding.
Well, I'll be happy to try to get that. I mean, this was brought to me as a really good Fort Worth family that was affected by this, and it's personal to me, and I'll admit that. But I'm happy to work with with some defense attorneys, and I've got some good friends that are DWI defense attorneys in Fort Worth, and I'm happy to work with that. I just wish that they'd come to us before today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I close.
If there's no objection, hearing none,
Thank you.
Senate Bill 2320 is left pending.
Chair lays out House Bill 4429. Recognize Mr. McQueen.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, members. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be in front of this committee for a second time this week. House Bill 4429 renames a portion of Highway 281 to the McElroy Memorial Highway. Zach, Lauren, and our children, Judson and Lindsay McElroy, were traveling on Highway 281 during Thanksgiving of 2023 when a drunk driver veered across the lane and hitting them head on. The horrific accident killed Zach, Lindsay, and Judson. Lauren was severely injured and had to be airlifted to an Austin area hospital. Texas deserves to know about this exceptional family. In the community, Zach was a staple. He and his business partner owned McElroy and Falls, a large commercial construction company. He was a very active TCU alumni member, and he gave back to the community with his time, talent, and treasure. He was often referred to as Mayor Muck. Mayor Muck was the type of person that made everybody around him want to be a better person. Judson was 12 years old. Lindsay was only 9. The children were loved by all those around him, and they were the ones that everybody gravitated towards. They were two of the sweetest and most respectful children I've ever known. I'd be remiss not to acknowledge the strength shown by Lauren, Zach's widow. She's fought the long road through a physical recovery from the accident, but even more impressive is the mental strength that she's shown through the time since the accident. When Lauren awoke from her medically induced coma, she knew she had lost her family, and some of the first words that came out of her mouth were, "I don't know why I'm here, but I know God has a plan for me." The tragic accident left a hole in our community. The McElroy family were constituents of mine and also longtime personal friends. The Memorial Highway would mean a ton to Fort Worth, to the McElroy family, to my family, and to Lauren, who you will hear from shortly. Thank you for your time, Mr. Speaker. Members, I request the right to close. Take any questions.
Are there any questions? Chair hears none. Thank you very much. Do you want to close real quick? Do you want to just go ahead and close? Oh, wait a minute. Are we going to have? Lauren Muckle. Chair recognizes Lauren McElroy. We're glad to have you here this morning. If you'll state your name and who you represent and whether you're for or against.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for having me. My
Just
name
take
is
your-
Lauren.
Yeah, just take your time.
Okay, thank you. My name is Lauren McElroy, and I'm here to testify in support of Bill 4429 to name a portion of Highway 281 as the McElroy Memorial Highway. As Representative McQueenie just said, on November 22nd of 2023, I was driving with my husband, Zach, my 12-year-old son, Judson, and my 9-year-old daughter, Lindsay, from Fort Worth to my parents' house in Johnson City to spend Thanksgiving with my side of the family. Thank you. Unfortunately, we never made it there because another vehicle driven by a drunk driver came across Highway 281 and hit us head-on. I was seriously injured and care flighted to Del Seaton here in Austin, but Zach, Judson, and Lindsay did not survive. I don't remember much from that day, but I will never forget a police officer telling me all 3 of them were gone. Even though their time was cut way too short, I'm so grateful for the time we had together and for all the memories we made as a family. And I will always share how special the 3 of them were in their own unique ways. As Representative McQueenie said, my husband Zach had a nickname of Mayor Muck in Fort Worth, not because he was ever officially elected, but because he seemed to know everyone anywhere we went. And not only did he seem to know everyone, but he was a friend to everyone, and had a way of making anyone he crossed paths with feel important and special. He loved his work, TCU football, the Fort Worth community, and his friends and family. Our son Judson was silly, but also thoughtful and empathetic beyond his years. He also had a way of making other kids feel comfortable and special, just like his dad. His smile was so infectious, and it could truly light up a room. He loved video games, of course, pickleball, football, soccer, and just being with his 6th grade friends. Lindsay was full of life and a social butterfly. She was sweet, but also spunky. She would do anything to defend her friends and family. Let's just say you didn't want to cross her or mess with anyone she cared about. Just ask her friends who are now in 5th grade. They would have lots of stories to share. She loved volleyball, Taylor Swift, pugs, and sleepovers with friends. This past November, the state trooper who investigated our accident reached out to let me know that construction was underway on US 281 in the entire area of our crash. He knew for a fact that our accident set that in motion and that lives will be saved as a result. He also said he wished construction could have happened sooner. Even though the driver who hit us was extremely intoxicated, I can't help but think if that stretch had been a little safer, maybe this still wouldn't have happened. I hope that TxDOT will continue to evaluate and try to make Texas highways safer so that accidents like ours could be prevented. Over the last 17 months, I have found so much comfort and hope in the ways that all 3 of them are being remembered, the outpouring of love we have felt from so many, and the goodness of people. Renaming this stretch of the highway is yet another way that they will never be forgotten, and their legacies can continue to live on. I also feel strongly that signs marking this stretch as the McElroy Memorial Highway can serve as a reminder to people that every person in a vehicle on Texas highways is someone's entire world, just like the 3 of them were mine. I hope that this can also serve as a reminder for people to stop and think and drive safely. Thank you, Representative McQueenie, for finding a way to help make this happen. You are a perfect example of the goodness I have seen in people as a result of our accident. And committee, thank you for your time and consideration in supporting this bill.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Chair hears none. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. McQueenie to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'd like to thank the people that are here helping support Lauren today. Alongside her sister and brother-in-law, Melanie and Jim, Lauren and Melanie's family, the Johnson family's here. Zach's brother, David, and sister Allison are in from Fort Worth. Marissa Mullins from Dallas. And as we mentioned earlier, our Congressman, Craig Goldman, is here, which we're extremely grateful for everybody to be here, as well as countless friends and family online.
Representative Schaffner is also with us, whose husband is related to the McElroy family. Representative Schaffner is a joint author on this bill alongside with Representative Troxclair, who represents the portion of the highway that's being named. So I'm grateful for their support, and I ask your favorable support. With that, I close.
Any questions? Chair hears none. We're now going to proceed to vote the bill out. Representative Craddock moves that House Bill 4429 be reported to the full House with a recommendation to do pass and be printed, placed on the local consent calendar. Clerk, call the roll.
Craddock.
Aye.
Perez. Aye. Canales.
Aye.
Curry. Gomez. Harris Davila. Hefner. LaHood. Little. Christina Morales. Eddie Morales. Patterson. Paul. Motion carries.
Motion passes. And what we're going to do is we'd like for everyone in the room to stand, please, and we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. We're elated to have you today. So thank you very much. Let's give them a minute.